set. Go ahead, Coach.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Just wanted to make sure I congratulated all the teams out there playing for the all the state championship games. Pretty cool to walk by, and we're out there on the practice field just now. I can hear them, and making the starting announcement. So congratulations to all those, young people, their families. It's quite an accomplishment. So with that, I'll get started.
What does it mean having those games here? Enjoy hosting these games at Nebraska every year.
I think it's great. I think what you want is you want all the young people across the state to grow up someday dreaming of, playing here, playing in Memorial Stadium, whether it's in the state championship or eventually here with us. So, I think one of our jobs is to nurture football, whether it's clinics that we do, youth camps that we do, hosting high school games, hosting all the, smaller schools and colleges in the state. They come over to us and visit us, watch practice. We want to be a place that supports football.
You're going to have a chance to have some kids who are in high school now who are a part of your practices next month. Is that the first time? I assume that's the first time for a bowl game you'll have ever experienced that. And what can that look like or mean?
Yeah, and I think we'll have to wait and see where we're going and when we are in terms of like dates that they graduate high school and all that. So it's my first time doing it. I haven't had that before. I think it's great just in the acclimation process. We want guys to understand sort of the standards that we have in terms of everything from, being on time to how we practice. And I think them getting a chance to get here early and be a part of it would be great. If it turns out right with the timing of graduation and all that.
What's the challenge of a short week? And I know you guys had a flu bug going through last week. Or you feel like you're over that?
Yeah, we had both flu and strep throat last week, so it was really kind of all hands on deck by our medical staff. We still have some guys, we had a couple guys that tapped out today. Not tapped out, like tapped out in the bad way, like we're out because of strep throat. But they were mainly non-travel guys. I mean, like Marquise Buford, Sierra, if you could put a camera on me, I kept putting my arm around him the whole game. I was like, I'll give you tomorrow off. Just get through this game, buddy, because he was playing corner, he was playing gunner, he was playing jam run, punt return, and he was just dying, right? Like, so, obviously him and Marquise Buford got back, but they were just not feeling great. So I think we're much healthier this week. The challenge of a short week, obviously, is just kind of, you lose a day. So, today we went out there, we practiced like it was a Tuesday. Tomorrow we'll practice like it's a Wednesday. Typically, I don't do that, but because of also the Thanksgiving component of this and some of the things that we'll do later in the week, we treat it this morning like Tuesday.
How much, given that you now have that bowl in place, how much hungry do you sense your team is to now go get another thing and win another game against Iowa?
I sure hope they are. I mean, honestly, Sam, we didn't even have a team. We haven't even had a team meeting since the game. Like, we walked in today and it was 8:00 Iowa special teams. There's just no time for, hey, great job, da 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 da. There's just no time for it, right? Like, so this is such a condensed week versus a really difficult opponent to prepare for that we just jumped right in. I think the thing that you saw, coming out of the game, like a lot of the guys were in the building yesterday. They know that they can do it. It's kind of like they know they're capable of it. So, let's continue to do it. That's the expectation now. What was once possible is now, okay, it's not just, hey, it's possible. Now we can do it. So let's do it. And this is an excellent team we're facing, so we have to do it at a high level.
Is it even more pronounced offensively with like a 44-point, 473-yard output?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and I think, like I said, the lessons of the game are the lessons of the season, right? Like we fumbled the ball on the 20-yard line. If we do that against Iowa, who's plus 11, we're not going to win. So while people, I think Dana's done an amazing job. Let me start there. But I think if you say it's the play call, you hear Dana on the headset the whole time. He's just talking about execution. Like the guys who practiced the best on Thursday last week played. Some guys had some false starts and some mistakes on Thursday. He's out. 13, you're in. Let's go. So IGC got a chance to play, and he made a play in the game. So there's a real focus on execution. And when the guys execute the play calls, and so I think that was the message to the guys, like, hey, if you execute and practice at a high level, you're going to have an opportunity to play in the game, and then when you get in the game, make the most of it. And so when we had penalties, we didn't score on those drives. When we when we snap the ball on third down, we're going on 2 and we snap it on 1, and all of a sudden the ball's in the quarterback's hands. There's nothing he can do. But when we just settled down and just played, then guys made the plays necessary to make. So it's kind of a blend of everything we've been trying to say to them all year coming to life. Like, hey, just go execute. I think the thing Dana's done a great job of is, like I said, he's cut things down to a degree, but also he's demanding that they execute if they want to get on the field. And that's kind of how we handle things on defense. And, I think it's kind of now played over to offense as well.
He's cut things down.
Just the amount of play, kind of like I said when I first got here, like he came in and said, hey, let's just scale back in terms of the amount that we're doing. We're still doing a lot, still doing a lot. And like I said, there's a couple times in that game where, he was trying to find the words because, he's had one language for, I don't know, 30 years. And now all of a sudden he has a completely different language. And so, Coach Glenn and Garrett and Sat did a great job of, I think, sometimes helping with the words in the middle of the game. But he has a picture of what he wants it to look like. And it's interesting for me. It's my first time being around there. It's very collaborative. Like, they sit in the room together for hours upon hours upon hours and put together a game plan together. So it's been really cool for me. I'm always trying to learn. It's good for me to learn from.
How much better is Iowa's run offense this year compared to last year? What's challenging about it in general?
Well, they've always been, to me, like when I first learned how to run outside zone, I go all the way back to learning from Rick Kaczynski, who I know coached here as well. He was a great D-line coach, but learning from him, learning from Coach Ferentz, that's how I first learned, the way that I've always taught the run game. So, they've always been the premier outside zone team, counter team in the country. I think Caleb Johnson's playing at an unbelievably high level. They've got a veteran offensive line. I think Coach Lester's brought in, they're doing a lot of what you see NFL teams doing. Like, they're running the ball to the open side, then checking it versus any 4-week threat to zap to the front side. So a lot of us who've been in the NFL, it's kind of what we know, and they're doing it really, really well. And I don't want to underestimate. This back is fantastic. He makes people miss, and he can burst and go the distance. They've kind of done it 2 different ways with Sullivan out there because he was a running threat. They were doing it one way. With McNamara out there, it was a little bit different, and I think that's the mark of great coaches. Whatever quarterback's been out there, they've been able to do it. To stay in the same scheme, but whatever fits that quarterback. And then now, as we're not sure who the quarterback is, they've kind of had a hybrid model in between. So I think they're doing a really, really, really good job, and they've run some people off the field just by running the football down their throat.
Now that the bowl game berth is secure, kind of building on what you're saying about being hungry, but do you just get the sense the guys are playing a little more free? And how was the attitude in terms of, coming off a win? You've had coming off a win before. Was it any different today than it has been in the past after a win?
Yeah, Sam said hungry. I didn't say that. I think our guys all. I don't think there's been a game where they weren't dying to win. I think, this is really hard. This has been hard, right? And it requires really tough people to do the stuff that we've been trying to do to kind of get over that hump, right? And when you lose to Indiana the way we did, then you come back against Ohio State, then you lose to Ohio State, and then you come back against UCLA, then you lose to UCLA, and then I make some changes, then you lose to USC. It's only reasonable that you would either lose your confidence or start to question things, right? Like, well, why are we working so hard if we're not getting the result that we want? And maybe we should be doing this. It's not like I sit there and say to the guys, hey, don't doubt, trust. It's only you guys asked me if this was big for me. I was like, yeah, this was big for me. This is I know I believe in what we do, but still, it's great to have some representation of, hey, it's working here for us right now. Even though you see it at practice, you like to see it in the game. So I've never doubted their effort, right? In fact, like last week, Dana and I were talking. He was like, sometimes, it's like times you feel like, maybe we're pressing a little bit too much, just trying to do too much. And I thought you saw a group on Saturday that was just pretty relaxed and pretty in the moment offensively. So I know how much the Iowa game means to our guys. We sat there last year. Like, I loved that group last year, and walking off the field after losing on the way we lost, right? We pick the ball off, we get a holding call, we throw a pick. They just kind of run the clock out. Guy makes a great run, and then the field goal just gets over the goalpost. That's a credit to Coach Ferentz and the way he does things. But walking off the field, their players are waving at our guys, have a good Christmas. That was painful. That was really painful. So I don't doubt that our guys will be ready, but their guys are going to be ready. None of it. It really just comes down to football, right? If we false start, we're probably not going to win. If we turn the ball over, we're not going to win. If we can win the turnover battle, we'll have a chance to win. And so if we can tackle, so I think it all comes down to the preparation. It's not all these other things, and that's a great thing about finally getting a bowl drought over with, because it's not these things. It's just like make this play, make this kick. John Hull. If John Hull doesn't do what he's done the last 2 months of getting better and better and better as a kicker, then we don't have we have a different kicker and a different snapper than we did at the beginning of the year. And those guys have just gotten incrementally better. To all of a sudden you get to a game like that, and if he's not making those field goals, the game's a lot different. So this week, to me, that's why we didn't spend a lot of time talking about it. We came out and just got right back to work, because I know Iowa's they're going to be prepared. They're going to work, and we have to make sure we're in our fits on defense, and we have to make sure we're not continuing to give up we're giving up too many big plays passing right now, way too many. And so we just have to make sure the football's right. But I'm sure they'll prepare high this week.
What about the weather? Just what will you find about your offense playing in colder conditions? You guys haven't had conditions that are going to be this cold. It's going to be a night game, obviously, late in the year.
Yeah, I don't worry about the weather. I mean, we go in the mornings here, which is great in some ways. But in the spring, I mean, there's plenty of days that we're out there and there's 30-mile-an-hour winds and it's 18, 20 degrees. I mean, it was 22 degrees last week. It was cold as could be out. I mean, today was. I'm wearing. You never see me wear a jacket. I wore a jacket out there today. Like, it's cold today. Where we practice, last week, we were throwing. It was 35-mile-an-hour gusts, and we were throwing into the gusts. The way Dana does 7-on-7, he goes this way for half, then this way for half, and so I mean, our guys are tough. Iowa's guys are tough. I think the game will come down to football. I think our guys will. If there was maybe ice on the field or snow, it might be a little different. But I feel pretty good about our ability to handle the cold, just because we do it in the spring and then we do it again in the fall. We don't really ever go inside unless I really need the crowd noise from the indoor.
Okay, there's execution. Is there anything else that got Raiola in a groove in that game on Saturday?
Well, I think he had a great week. I think the UCLA game. I mean, that was a significant hit to his back and injury, and so even if you go back to the USC Tuesday, I was like, I think he'll be able to practice. He didn't practice on Sunday. I think he'll be able to practice Tuesday, but I think he was ginger that whole game. I mean, I think he was better this game, just in terms of being healthy, right? Being able to move around, being able to slide in the pocket, and they got one pressure on us early, but after that, I thought, we're getting the ball out of our hands. He was just taking completions, taking what was there, not trying to do too much. Again, playing as a freshman in the Big Ten is really, really hard. It requires tough people, and I think Dylan's been tough in that he's gotten better every week. And sometimes maybe everyone, like the production people, they're asking me that you can't always maybe see it because you're playing better people, but I think Dylan's gotten better every week in a lot of ways. This week it was really easy to see, because I thought he was just in complete and total control and command, and again, another week with Dana, I think, has helped him as well.
And that ability to get past the doubt that you talked about that the guys are naturally going to have, how important and how heavily did the seniors impact, weigh or factor in the whole locker room not getting weighed down by that?
Yeah, I think whether you doubt something's going to work or not, it really comes down to whether you go out and do the work or not. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to do it anyway. Or I'm sure this is going to work, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like, it all comes down to, at the end of the day, your work output. Like, if you're going out there every day and you're working on the execution of a play, if you're working on the execution of a special teams, if you're working on your craft, I personally believe, like, I haven't had very many great players who've played for me who haven't actually had this great period where they almost like quit football, or they like, I'm saying, like, everyone's career doesn't go like this. Like, you have to go through these ups and downs and hit this point where you're like, man, I'm not Matt Ioannidis, Hassan Reddick, all of them came in my office and said, man, I think I'm going to transfer, coach. I don't think I'm going to, and then they all hung through it, weathered the storm, and then came out the other side. And so it comes down to me. You're going to feel all these different feelings and emotions, but do you show up and practice? Do you show up and meet? And so I think, like, Giff and Ty and Nash and MJ and Jamar, even though he's decided to come back, and Banks and Nayor and Ben Hart and Ben Scott, I think those guys have just continued to show up and continued to work. So whereas they might doubt, or they might feel all the doubt or hear all the doubt, they've just continued to do the work. And the ones who haven't played as much. The ones who have continue to play. Buschini, all those guys. And then all of a sudden one day wakes up and you score 44 points, or you beat Wisconsin for the first time in however many years, or you kick a bunch of field goals, and it's like, okay, now I believe. It's really hard to believe. It's blind faith, right? It's hard to believe when it hasn't worked. And so when it finally works, and it works for a game, I'm not, when it finally works, it's like, all right. But they did the work anyway, and I think that's the biggest message I have to the guys is like, no matter whether you believe in it or don't believe in it, just show up and work, and you'll find out in the long run. And so I'm proud of those guys. They've really pushed, I think, the thing through.
In the last game, Kirchner and Lindenmeyer played a lot. Fedoni did not. Was that an injury-related issue, or was that just Holgerson's preference?
No, I think that was just Dana getting in the game and just going with those other guys. I think that was just coach's decision.
What did you like about how Nate played? They played a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, Nate's an excellent player. He's unselfish. He doesn't complain about his touches or whether if you ask him to do something, Nate does it. Very steady. And so when he had a chance to catch the ball, I mean, both times he caught the ball, I mean, it's he had a great run after the catch. And then I think Luke Lindenmeyer, you talk about a guy since the bye week, since Dana showed up, who to me has like put his foot on the gas and accelerated. Like in practice, I mean, he's trying to put people on their backs. He's trying to finish blocks. And those guys are just really dependable guys. They execute at a high level, and they earned a chance to play. I mean, Thomas is the same way. Thomas has all the ability to make every play. He's made some huge plays down the field. He's got a ton of talent. He's had a bunch of injuries. He's a lot like a lot of the guys I'm talking about. It's his second year playing, really. So forget, the hardest thing in the world is to come in with a bunch of accolades, right? Because everyone's always asking you, like, but he's second year playing, and I think Thomas, he had a great practice out there today. I think the thing with Dana is, like, I think a lot of people have said to me, like, they really enjoyed his press conference last week and just the bluntness of it. Well, the bluntness is followed up with, at every position, right? Like, you have to go out and execute, right? And the guys who practice the best and then get in the game and play, like Wood fumbled that ball, and Janirin didn't play quite as much afterwards. Janirin's not going to say much. He's just going to go out there and, okay, when you need me again, need me. And when they needed him, he went in and he did his job. So, I think Dana's brought a standard offensively that I'm not going to say we didn't have before. I just think he has the experience to kind of follow through on it in some ways that I think is maybe good for all of us to learn from. But Thomas, I'm sure, will have a great role in this game. And like I said, there's not many guys who can make plays down the field the way he can. Just kind of continue to work on him and all those guys. And again, I'm deferring a lot of this. Like, I don't tell Terrence who to play at nose tackle, and I'm not telling Dana and Sat who to play at tight end. I give my 2 cents if there's something I really believe in, I'll step in. But I think it's really good that guys can go out and practice for what they want.
Big plays in the secondary. I don't think Malcolm Hartzog played a lot in the second half. I know Blatt Hill got a lot of run there. Was that on-field related, or did he re-aggravate something there?
No. I'm not sure the rep count of Malcolm in the second half. I thought, kind of Marquise was down a little bit, so Malcolm was kind of moving to safety and corner. But I think all those guys were just there was nothing like in terms of like, hey, pull them out or anything like that. I just think we just kind of rotated the guys as we went through because some guys got banged up and guys weren't feeling great. But Malcolm's out there today. He's practicing well. He should be ready to go.
Hey, Coach. Coach,
I'm sorry, guys.
you mentioned Tommy Hill last week shut down for the year. Is there anybody else that's moved on or not with your shutdown the rest of the season?
You guys asked me about Malachi the other day. Malachi, came in and I hope it's. I just didn't want to talk about that on Thursday, right? I thought there was more time of the game, but Malachi came in, let us know he was going to go in the portal. So obviously wish him the best. Great young man, local guy. Had some really big moments for us last year. Was redshirting and developing, and I think what we're going to this year, I think we're going to probably end up with between 30 and 50 guys in the portal. Just with the roster and all things that are going to have to happen. So. Wish Malachi. I can't say anything but great things about Malachi, and obviously he's not one that I wanted to go in the portal, but I really don't want any of them to go in the portal. I want them all to stay here and develop. It's just the new world we're in. It's going to be different. So, in terms of anyone else, everyone's kind of practicing with us. Tommy's the one that we just kind of shut down, and Mike is fighting through his shoulder. He's done a great job of battling through that shoulder that kind of limits him a little bit. Everyone else is kind of battling. Marquise Buford, like I said, battled through the sickness last week. So I think everyone else is up and healthy and ready to go.
The door open for Turner to potentially come back and play in the bowl game. Is that still trending in the right way?
Yeah, Turner's still not practicing yet. Like, he's still out there. Turner's still out there doing the pit and rehab, and they're doing some on-field stuff with us. So once we get to bowl practice, I'm assuming Turner would be ready to go. I'm assuming Peters, Jake Peters, the young center, would be ready to practice some. So the bowl practice is going to be big for us for some of those guys who've been injured all year that are coming off of it. But Turner's still probably a couple weeks away.
I don't want to overdo it on Holgerson, but is there anything, you haven't worked with him before, is there anything else you've learned just working with him, about the way he goes about things, anything?
Yeah, he's just methodical. It's like, I always knew when we played my first year at Baylor, we were probably the worst team in the world. And one of our players got hurt on a punt return on their sideline. I went over their sideline, and he was ripping the ref because they made the call for us. And I was like, man, I didn't know you could say that to the ref. Like, I'm being too gentle with these guys. And I've always been out and seen Dane in different places and just kind of knew him as like, I went and sat in a clinic just to listen to him talk, right? When he was the OC at Oklahoma State or wherever. So I've always known him from afar, and like the Red Bull on the sidelines and all those things. And then, like I said, I got to spend a day with him a couple years ago, and me and Julie went to dinner, and I got to really get to know him. He's just really a thoughtful, insightful man. And then seeing him here, seeing his process here, it's you guys know the way I feel about Phil Snow. It's very much like Phil. It's, watching Tony, watching the way they work. Just very methodical. Dana comes in, he studies the opponent until he understands him, and then they get together, and it's just the rhythm of the way that he does things makes total sense to me. A lot of the guys on our staff, we didn't come up through like big organizations. Like we weren't we weren't some famous coach's son, or we weren't so like we kind of nickeled and dimed our way up to like Albright College, and then a GA here, a GA there, and so I was never able to be under a great offensive system. Then I had a chance to go to the Giants. I worked for Kevin Gilbride, who's one of the great offensive coordinators in NFL history, and he had some run and shoot things, and I loved them, and so I kind of got a chance. But this for me, this is a chance. And Dana's we're not running the air raid. He doesn't even coach the air raid anymore. Like that was just what he came up in. But to me, just seeing the way that he processes things, it's like so close to what we were doing. It's just a little bit better. It's just a little bit more simplified. So I think whether it's Sat or Glenn or Garrett or Donnie or EJ or any other coaches on our offense, they're really benefiting from watching the way the process plays out. And it's from the way they watch tape to the way that they script to the way that they attach plays to the script to the way that they do their walkthrough pre-practice to the way they do routes on air. It's all these things that I've had offensive coaches wanted to do, but it never made complete and total sense to me till I worked with Dana, and now it makes sense to me. So, if I coach with Dana for one more week, or if we coach together for the next 10 years, I'll be a better coach as a result. And bringing in Tony after being with Phil, I had one defensive coordinator for my entire whatever that's been 10, 11 years as a head coach. Tony had a completely different process, and it was really, really cool for me to see and interesting for me to see and learn from. And so this has been great. Normally you have kind of like, hey, this is our way, and it's been interesting. And then I just think that incremental process, like you look at what Ed's done, think about, like I said after the game, think where we were at Purdue and Rutgers, we couldn't even get a punt off. And think about where we are now. Not that was okay, but I'm just saying to be punting balls out at the 4 and having big kickoff returns, and Ed's, instead of just blowing everything up, Ed's just gotten a little bit better and gotten the guys to get a little bit better. So I don't know if I'm answering your question. I'm going to say it's helped me and it's really taught me a lot.
What have you seen in terms of the progression on special teams, and how important will that be Friday with a team like Iowa that field position so important?
Yeah, I think like I said, I've really studied Coach Ferentz. I have so much respect for what he's done, and from the fact he'll take the ball. A lot of guys will defer. He'll take the ball to have the win in the fourth quarter, and the way that they'll play field position, the way that they'll punt the ball down. It's very much like when you're in the NFL playing all the Coach Belichick and all of his coaches. Because when I was there, you'd play Joe Judge, you'd play those guys. It's really difficult, and they have a great punter. They have an elite returner. They've got great special teams, and it'll be a real challenge. It'll be a real challenge. And on a game like this, a Friday night in the cold, those things show up. And that's why they win the close games. They're very comfortable. You know, to me, like it's almost like for them, like the game doesn't even start till the second half begins. It's like they're very comfortable playing in a close game, and they know who they are. And I really enjoyed watching that from them. So, you know, Brian's been really punting the ball well. We've been more consistent in terms of catching punts and not letting balls roll down and having us in bad field position. You know, we had some 2 returners out there last week to try to get shake Jacory loose. So we'll try to have our best plan possible. My only thing to the coaches is like, hey, do whatever you guys want. Just make sure it's something we can execute. Let's not go out there and try to solve the world with a pencil. Let's let our guys go out and execute. And so, you know, whether it's Carter Nelson running down a kickoff and tackle him at the 20, you know, hopefully we can make some plays versus probably the premier special teams unit in the Big Ten.
Just to be clear, are you 100% outside practice team?
100%?
Yeah. You always outside?
I mean, if there was a day where if I can't stand the cold, I might say, hey, let's go inside. Like, and there's been some times, like I said, like the week of was it Ohio State, or maybe Ohio State. I put the offense in that week, or UCLA, because I wanted them to have blistering crowd noise because it's so loud in the Hawks. But in general, when the grass fields are workable, we never go inside. They might be inside a little bit for like individual drills, so we don't cut up the grass. But like our team periods are all outside. I'm not, you know, as you guys know, I'm not a huge fan of turf. There's some turf companies, you know. We had Hellas Turf when I was at Baylor, and I liked their turf, so I'd go out a little more. But we're outside as, you know, 95% of the time we're doing something.
I think Dowd Elster touched on that he'd like to get a run or a leak out. You think he's got the hands for it?
Trust me, my phone's been blowing up from Ty talking about running the football. So I can promise you this: we might do it in practice, or we're not going to hand the ball to Ty Robinson anytime soon. So, Ty, even those guys, it was funny. Like, normally you try something like that, and you're yelling for the defensive guys, and they're running over their helmet. Like they were standing right next to us. Like they wanted to go out there. Him and Judy. Judy, I mean, you go back and look at this year because he's also been the fullback in our 22 sets. I mean, he's had some great blocks. So he's, you know, when we lost Barrett was a really good player for us. And we lost Barrett, Judy, and then Lindenmeyer now, but Ty also. They've all kind of filled that void.
It's all Big Ten time, voting, things like that. Feel free to talk about anybody you like, but I would curious if you brag a little bit on Ty. There's 18 teams in the league. There's 1 million defensive linemen. But how good of a season do you feel like he's had within the context of your team?
Yeah, Ty. Well, I mean, we're one of the better defenses in the Big Ten, right? And we're certainly one of the better run defenses in the Big Ten. And Ty's been dominant. I think he had 6, 7. I don't know how many sacks. 6 sacks. I saw on the board before the game it said he had 6 sacks before the game. As I was standing out there looking at so I don't know if he had one in the last game or not. But Ty, you know, Ty's been absolutely dominant, and he should be up for every accolade. He's someone that people should draft really high next year because he's the total package. I mean, he's as good a football player as there is. He's really athletic. He could bulk up. He could slim down. He can play 3 downs in the NFL, which means he should be first team All Big Ten here. He's on his way to going to medical school. When he's done, he's going to be a doctor. And his girlfriend Bryce is twice as cool as he is. I mean, he's the real deal. He's one of the best players I've seen in the Big Ten this year. And I watch all the tape crossover, and there's a lot of great ones. You know, we're getting ready to play against 94 from Iowa. I put him right there, right up there. There's a lot of really good ones, but yeah, Ty's been dominant.
There was an interaction post-game between one of Bickle's police detail and Donnie. Do you know what happened there?
I came in this morning. They were showing me the video, so I don't want to speculate without knowing. Obviously Donnie went to Wisconsin, so I don't know if there was some history there with somebody or something. But when I asked Donnie about it, he was like, no big deal. So things happen after games. People are emotional, but he seemed to kind of brush it off. So it was kind of mayhem out there, trying to get off the field. So, yeah, I don't know much else other than that. Thanks, guys.